Hello, I'm Refashionista Sheri, and today I'm going to show you how I took two thrifted 1980s fancy schmancy pillow shams and transformed them into this amazing vest, top, clubwear. I don't even know what to call it, but it is super cool and it was surprisingly easy to make. So that is coming right up, along with more than a few of my absolute favorite upcycled linens. We're talking bed sheets, pillowcases, even placemats, and we're going to transform them into things that you want to wear every single day. And of course, I'm going to show you how to style everything up as well. Now, if you want to help me spread my sustainable style message, which I would dearly appreciate, all you have to do is like this video, leave a comment, subscribe, of course, and share your favorite tutorials of mine with your online circles. And let's get everybody using what they have to make what they want. And I think that should be my new catchphrase. Oh, also, if you're one of those people who are like, oh my God, I hate your voice so much. Or one of those people who leaves comments saying, oh, your video is too long. Yeah, compilation videos are pretty long. But you know what I do to help you guys out who hate my voice and hate the length of some of my videos? Well, I put timestamps. I take so much time behind the scenes, and I put meticulous timestamps in the description box so you can click and go exactly where you want to go in my videos. You don't have to watch the whole thing. Click and zoop, you're right there at the part of the video you want to see. And for those of you who really hate my voice so much, well, I also spend a whole bunch of time behind the scenes doing the captions, so you can mute and just read the captions and problem solved. So there you go. I'm helping everybody, regardless if you like me or not. You know what? Let's get making.
For this hopefully quick and easy project, all you need are two decorative pillowcases that you think will wrap around your body comfortably when they're stitched together, plus a shirt to use as a template. And this one I actually refashioned a while ago, and it's still going strong and looking awesome, and the tutorial will be down below for you. So I grabbed one of my decorative pillowcases and I'm going to flip it inside out so I can have access to this seam here that is holding all of this together. The ruffles, the lining, absolutely everything. And now I'm just making sure that the ruffle is all tucked to the inside, and then I'm simply going to go and chop off this seam here all the way around that is holding everything together, so I have everything in its individual pieces. So now I have two perfectly matching rectangles of fabric that are fully lined and quilted, plus all of those ruffles. When I chopped them off, of course, they became unruffled. So now I have two incredibly long lengths of this silky satiny fabric to use for embellishments. So I have my two rectangles of fabric placed together with the right sides facing, and I also remembered to make sure that I have this quilted design facing the same direction on both sides. Now I'm going to fold it in half as evenly as possible. It is satiny, so it's quite slippery. And then this folded corner here, I'm just going to pop a pin in to mark it, so then I know that this is the center, so I can create my neckline. For those of you who are kind of sticklers for measurements, you can grab your tailor's measure, of course, and just measure across, and you get everything here, and mine is 70 centimeters, and as you can see, 35 right there in the center, so it's the same. Now I'm going to grab my top and lay it with the center of the collar pretty much lined up with the center of the pin. And as I always say, perfection is the enemy of good enough. And this top, when it's done, is going to be spectacularly good enough. Okay, now I'm gonna grab my lovely thrifted pin cushion, and I don't know what this was originally used for. If you have an idea, let me know. But this is my little container of extra pins, and it fits perfectly in there. And then I have this as the pin cushion, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't originally supposed to be used for that. But it's adorable. Anyway, I digress as usual. So now I'm going to mark with a pin a few centimeters away from the underarm seam of the top here, just for seam allowance. And because this top is really stretchy, but this fabric isn't super stretchy, so I want to give myself at least another centimeter of breathing room if I can. Okay, and next we're gonna grab the pins again and mark up here the shoulder seam as well, and the collar, just for fun, the side of one of the collars there. And let's go, where should we go now? To here. Yeah, let's go to the side seam of the sleeves, and I think maybe to the top of the sleeve as well. Now I'm going to go stitch from the bottom up to the underarm mark and across in a backwards L shape, backwards and upside down, I guess, L shape, to create my side and undersleeve seam. And then I'm going to go stitch down from this pin here from my collar all the way down to the side here to create the one side of the collar, shoulder, and top of the sleeve seam. So it's just so easy. Backwards L and then a straight stitch here. So as you can see, my kind of little L shape here is not there anymore. And that is because I tried this on after stitching one side and it was so bulky I couldn't get my arm down. So I decided, you know what, we're going to have to go sleeveless with this, which is fine. And it makes it even easier because then all you have to do is the side seams and the shoulder seam and you're pretty much going to be done. This is definitely turning out to be one of those just trust your refashionista brain projects, I think. So basically now I have like a vest shape. So here's the armholes are here, there's the bottom, and the head comes out here. But this is really too high, and because it's so bulky, it's just uncomfortable. So I'm going to fold this in half as evenly as I can, like so, and then I'm just going to do a gentle kind of curve chop out here to create a bigger neckline. And as always, I am going to cut less than I think I might need because then I can always cut more if necessary. So this is the neckline chopped, and it definitely needs some more because I'm still feeling quite strangled here. So I'm going to go chop off some more, and then hopefully it's going to be nearly done and we can start embellishing it. As you can see, I did chop out more from my neckline and I made the front a few centimeters lower than the back, and that totally solved my problem. Now I'm going to grab one of those long lengths of satiny fabric that used to be the ruffles on the pillow sham, and I'm going to press it till it's all nice on with a very low iron, of course, because this is probably going to burn with a hot iron. And then I'm simply going to go and bind up all of my raw edges on the neckline, the sleeves, and the bottom hem, and then it's going to be done. I told you at the very beginning, this was too easy to make. And seriously, it came out so amazingly well. And it's summer right now, so it is very, very hot, which is why I'm sweating a little bit. But I definitely think this is going to be great for layering in the colder months. And I mean, it's definitely a conversation starter. So if you make this, please do let me know. And you can send me a photo. I love seeing the photos of the items that you make from my tutorials. It's inspiring for me. And I love seeing how different people interpret my tutorials because I'm just putting it out there. You can use it and make it however the heck you want to make it. You can, make something like this, not with a fluffy, puffy, hot pink pillowcase. Use your own design. You're your own designer. And so I think now, blah, blah, too much talking again for those people who hate my voice. And
Let's move on to some of my favorite upcycled linens.
These are extra awesome because they're like Germany-sized pillowcases. I don't know if you know this, but I lived in Germany for quite a while. And the pillows over there are literally 80 by 80 centimeters. So the pillowcases are, 80 by 80 centimeters. They're absolutely huge. And this is enough fabric, I think, to make an absolutely adorable tiered dress. So that's what we're going to do today. For this hopefully quick and easy project, all you need are your 2 pillowcases that are big enough to fit around your body, or, a tablecloth, a bed sheet, a duvet cover, just, enough fabric to go all around your body, plus a shirt or a dress to use as a template. Now, because I want my finished dress to be kind of loose fitting and floaty and swingy on me, I'm using a loose fitting top as a template for the bodice. So the first thing I'm going to do, of course, is give both of my pillowcases a nice press to get out all of the little crinkles and wrinkles. Okay, so I now have my pillowcases pressed, and I have one of my pillowcases inside out lying on a flat surface, and I have folded it in half. So you can see here, there is the fold, and now we can move on to the next step. So next I folded my template shirt in half, and I lined up the folded edges together, as well as the shoulder seams are lined up pretty much with the top of the pillowcase there. And if you want to, you can do what I did here and just gently mark out with a piece of chalk the basic shape of your top onto your folded pillowcase, and then go chop it out. So now you can see I have the very basic shape done for my top. And over here on the corner, I just cut out a kind of half circle triangular shape to represent the neckline, because I have no idea what kind of neckline I want to do yet. And when it's opened up, it looks like this. It really does look like a top right now. And bonus, because I utilized the folds up at the top here, I don't have to stitch any shoulder seams because it's already folded. That's done. But I do have to stitch the side seams. So I'm just going to go quickly do that, stitching down from the underarm to the bottom hem on both sides. Okay, so I have my side stitched together, and clearly I flipped it right side out and I popped it on to check the fit, and it is absolutely perfect. So this is a case of a Refashionista miscalculation. So when I chopped off the button placket that was here on my pillowcase, as well as the top seam that was there on the pillowcase, I now realize I don't have nearly enough fabric to make tiers to go on the bottom of my top to make a tiered dress. So instead, we're just going to make a normal dress, and we're going to use the scraps for something else. I don't know, we're gonna figure out some sleeves or something. But again, here is another wonderful piece of evidence that proves that refashioning is awesome, because even if you start out with an idea and it doesn't work out, you just pivot and make it into something else, and no one will be the wiser when I wear it. Okay, so for now I have my top right side out, and I have my other pillowcase that has now been transformed into a tube, also right side out, but that's going to change in a second. I just want to keep it right side out so I can match the patterns up. So you can see if I have this to the front, this matches that perfectly. And if I flip it around and then I flip this one around, that matches up perfectly too. So wonderful. So what I need to do is take my tube pillowcase piece, which is, for the skirt of the dress, and flip it inside out like so. And then I'm going to put my top inside of it, making sure, hopefully, that I have the, yes I do, the right sides are going to be lined up here. Perfect. And now I'm going to match up the side seams. And as as I always say, you can gather up your fabric however the heck you want to. I, of course, am going to be doing my favorite, which is pin tucks, but you can also gather your fabric with your machine, and I will link down below to the tutorial that shows how to gather fabric with your machine. But as I said, I'm going to gather my excess fabric here using pin tucks because it's just my favorite and I like how it looks. So, because I have my side seams already matched up, I know that I have this much fabric that I have to gather. And you know what? I think actually I might just do 2 big pin tucks on each side, and then it kind of might end up looking a little bit like an apron dress. We'll see. So to do your pin tucks, you just want to gather up some of that excess fabric and literally fold it over until it is matched up. There you go. You can see there that is nice and matched up. And then this part here is going to end up being my pin tuck. So I'm just grabbing a pin after I tuck this together and pin it, and there you go. There's one pin tuck done. And now I'm going to go finish off the rest and then stitch it together. And you can see my lovely pin tucks look fantastic. And if you're like me and you don't have a fancy serger to finish off your edges, once you're done your straight stitch, go ahead and do a tight wide zigzag over top of your straight stitch, and then chop off any excess with your pinking shears or zigzag scissors. And this really does help to prevent any fraying that might occur. And I know this fabric is quite vintage, and you see it's already started to fray a little bit there, but all of the precautions I just did should stop it from making its way all the way down to this seam and destroying my hard work. Okay, this looks so super cute, but I have to figure out what I want to do with the neckline, and I think I might just bind it as well as the bottom hem with a selection from my vintage white lace stash here. So there, that's going to get sorted. Maybe I'll use this one. That one's really pretty, or maybe this one. Not sure. We'll figure it out. But what about the sleeves? I could just bind the armholes, but I was thinking maybe I want to try to use up some of the leftover fabric to make sleeves. Then I went and I was hunting in my stash and I found these 2 tubes of tulle that I had previously made for a different project, and I never ended up using them. And when I put this beside this armhole here, it fits really, really well. So I'm thinking I might add these tulle sleeves, but maybe put a band around the bottom to make it puff out a little bit using some of the scraps of this fabric. And I think that would just look so super duper cute. So should we try it? Yes, let's try it. So I was just looking at these chopped leftovers here and thinking to myself, if I remove the buttons from this side, and then I can chop off this already finished edge and use that for the cuffs on my sleeves. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. Again, how I refashion is really and truly the easiest way possible. And whenever I can use something that already exists, instead of having to remake a whole bunch of bias binding or something, I'm definitely going to do it. And this button placket here is just perfect. I just got to remove the buttons. So now I have 2 lovely little pieces that I'm going to use as the cuffs for my sleeves. And to get the correct size, I simply held it up around my arm and made it loose enough for seam allowance, but tight enough that I know once it's all done, it's going to be what I want it to be. So now I'm just going to go stitch the open ends together to create a couple of little loops. La la! And I now have 2 very adorable little cuffs to go with my tulle sleeves. So, how are we gonna do this now? I think the best way to do this is with, of course, pin tucks, because this needs to be gathered up so it fits into my little cuff. So I'm going to do what I always do, and we're going to pop the right sides facing and the raw edges lined up, and then my seam here on my tulle sleeve is going to get matched up with my seam here on my little cuff, right? And when it's stitched together, la la, that will come down and it will look adorable. Okay, so I'm just going to do a bunch of pin tucks so I can get this all matched up together, and then we'll see what it looks like. And there's all my little pin tucks. Now, I just eyeball things all the time, so if you prefer to measure things, by all means go ahead. I just find it pretty quick and a lot easier to just eyeball it, and I have a pretty good eye, I think. So now I'm gonna go and stitch this together and then repeat the whole process on the other sleeve. How absolutely adorable does that look? That came out so perfect, and just because I'm me, I went ahead and I added some of that lace trim to the bottom of the cuffs as well, just to tie everything in, because I'm going to be using this around the collar. So these look so adorable. Now let's go attach them to the dress. So you can see here I have my dress inside out and my sleeve right side out, and I did already chop my sleeves at a slight angle here just to make it sit nicer in the armhole. So now I'm going to take my sleeve and pop it in to the armhole, and now the right sides will be facing, and then I'm just going to line up the underarm seam of the sleeve with the underarm seam here of my dress, and shake everything down together, and then just go stitch it together, and then repeat the whole thing on the other side of the dress. Guys, how perfectly adorable did that come out? I am once again impressed with myself, because I've never ever tried to do a sleeve like this with the cuff on it and, you know, doing it from scratch and everything, and I did it. I successfully figured it out without a pattern, and I am, again, yay me for figuring this stuff out, because it can be difficult when you're trying stuff for the first time, but this came out so well. I still need to work on the collar here, and I thought I would just finish it off with this bit of lace and just go around, and that's why I put this lace around the sleeve cuffs as well. But then I found this, and I think that would be super cute. But then I remembered I still had a whole bunch of the button placket left that I had used for my sleeve cuffs, and so I chopped off some more and used that to finish off my collar, and it stands up by itself. It looks so fantastic when it's on, so let's go try it on and style it up.
I am again totally lost for words. This is another one that came out a bungabillion times better than I thought it would. I truly had no idea how I was going to do the sleeves, and yet, seriously, how gorgeous did that come out? And the sleeve, this is like the last remnants of a curtain that I have just been using and making stuff out of. This amazing 90s fabric, and today we are going to use this to make an absolutely adorable set for summer. So let's get making.
For this cutie patootie project, all you need is a piece of fabric or a huge tablecloth or a big bed sheet that is large enough to wrap around your whole body from your shoulders down to your ankles, as well as a shirt that fits you loosely and has the basic style that you like to use as a template. Okay, so as you can see, for my first step, I laid the fabric down on the floor, and then I folded down the top until it got to about the length that I wanted my top to have. Then I placed my template shirt on top and made sure I had a few centimeters of seam allowance there. And now I am just going to go cut the fabric to size. Okay, so now that I have my fabric cut for the top, let's go make it. Okay, so as always, to find the center area to put my head hole, I have folded my fabric in half once again, this time lengthwise, right? It was folded widthwise, and now we fold it in half again lengthwise, and I popped a pin there into that folded corner. And now when I open it up, this should be hopefully exactly the center. Okay, so now I have my fabric opened up one time and I have my template top folded in half, and I have the corner side of my collar lined up with the pin. So hopefully when I open up my template top, I now have the center of the neckline marked, and now I can go mark the rest of my neckline and get chopping. Okay, so you can see here that I have my marks where I need my neckline to be, and I actually took it in about 1 centimeter on each side. So now I'm just going to cut a really easy slit right there because I'm not exactly sure the shape I want my neckline to have, so I'm just going to basically cut there so I know where I want to have it. Okay, so I have chopped my little neckline area here on the top fold of my fabric, and I also took the time to mark out the side area of my template top onto my fabric. So you can see it's kind of like a reverse L shape here, and so I'm just going to go and stitch along all of my pins to create the kind of side seams and sleeves. And as you can see, I did go ahead and I've already chopped out the area of excess fabric where I stitched it. And now all I have to do is fold my fabric evenly in half and use this side as the template for this side. So I'm going to go and do that, and then we're going to try it on and see what else we're going to do to this top. La la! And I have this on inside out now, but you can see it's pretty much a shirt, you know? I mean, I wouldn't say I would be finished now because clearly it needs some hemming and some finishing touches, but it looks pretty cool, and it's super airy and flowy and lightweight. If anybody has any more tips and tricks for working with this kind of super silky, lightweight fabric, please do let me know because I'm all ears. This fabric drives me nuts when I'm working with it. And I did get some good tips last time I asked, but I'm always learning and I always want more. So give me more. Give me all the tips you have for sewing, please. Anyway, so I actually don't have to hem up the sleeve cuffs because how I cut it, these edges here were actually the finished edges of the fabric. So yay me, but I do have to finish off the bottom hem, and you can see here I just did a really simple circular cut neckline, so I'm going to finish that off too, so let's go do that. Okay, so I went ahead and just did a really quick and easy hem on the bottom of my shirt and on the neckline, and you know, it doesn't look great. The neckline actually looks pretty so one of my greatest refashionista tips ever is if something doesn't work out and you know it's good enough but the end result isn't exactly as you wanted it, cover it up, grab some trim and simply go ahead and cover it up. And because this came out pretty wonky here, I think, again, it's down to the fabric and my lack of experience working with this type of fabric, but I do think it does need to have some kind of structure there, and this vintage trim is pretty heavy duty, so I think that is definitely going to help. So I'm going to actually stitch this around the front as well as the interior just to give it that bit of extra structure. And I'm also, of course, so it matches, going to do a line of it all the way around the bottom hem as well. Okay, that looks so much nicer. It actually stands up nicely. Like I said, putting the double layer here really gave it a lot of structure, which is wonderful because this is a very light fabric. So I can't wait to get it on and see what it actually is going to look like. But the bottom also looks fantastic. And I did have enough left over that I put a bunch all around the sleeves as well. So now I have my top finished. Let's move on to what we're going to do for the bottom part. So I have this rather large square of fabric left, and it very comfortably wraps all the way around my body. So I think I'm going to make a cool matching maxi skirt. And again, it's a square, so it really doesn't matter which way I fold the right sides together. But once again, I want to utilize this finished edge. So I'm going to have one of the finished edges at the top and the other one at the bottom. And I'm just going to fold it with right sides facing, like so. And then stitch these chopped raw edges together to create a very long, wide tube. Okay, that is now all nicely stitched together. So now I'm just going to fold the top bit down to the inside because I'm making a casing for my elastic waist, just, you know, the simplest way to do a waistband, and that should be fine. So just gonna pop a pin there so I know the width. Okay, so if you don't like doing this kind of elastic waist, I shall link down below for my super duper comfy yoga style waistband, which uses a simple t-shirt. And yeah, you can use that for skirts and lounge pants and whatever the heck you need a comfy waistband for. So that will be down below for you. Okay, so I have my elastic waist all inserted and finished off, and I popped on the skirt and chopped to the length I wanted it, and then of course I went ahead and finished off the bottom hem with some more of that lovely vintage trim. So now we can try it all on and style it up.
Yay! Another rockin' Refashionista triumph. Seriously? Again, this is another one that came out so much better than I thought it was going to. And as I explained in my previous video, I never use patterns or anything because my brain doesn't work that way. How it kind of goes with me is I see something, like I saw this fabric in the thrift store, and instantly it came in my head, oh, that would look so cool as like a top and a skirt set. And then right after that, immediately after that, it goes in my head the steps I think I might need to do in order to make it. And wow, this came out so much better than I thought it would, especially because, like I said, this fabric was really hard to work with. I'll put on my Refashionista thinking cap, and I figured I can probably make myself a very, very adorable pair of pants, a skirt, a shirt, or a dress out of this. So let's go see what we're gonna make.
Okay, so before we dive into the tutorial, let's do a bit of vintage tag appreciation and education. So this tag says this is 100% Orlon fabric, and it was made in England. And I don't know if that's the whole tag or if it was chopped off, but it is fraying a little bit here. So what the heck is Orlon fabric? Because I had no idea, and it sounds like some kind of alien name on like Star Trek, like, oh, the Orlons are coming. I looked it up, and Google is a wonderful thing. You know, you don't got to look in encyclopedias anymore. And once again, I'm aging myself, but whatever. So Orlon was actually invented in 1941, and it was supposed to be a very soft version of synthetic acrylic fabric. And you know what? I think they totally succeeded because this is incredibly soft. It was, however, discontinued in 1990 when they realized that spandex and lycra were a lot cheaper and easier to make, and they had a lot more stretch to them. So Orlon fabric was around for more than a few years, 1941 to 1990. To create this absolutely awesome salute to Gen X dress, all you need is a light and airy baby blanket or regular blanket or tablecloth or curtain that fits comfortably around your body, plus a sleeveless shirt to use as a template. And you may recognize this one as I just mended and refashioned it, so I'll link that down below for you.
So what I mean when I say it needs to wrap comfortably around your body is that lengthwise, this is a rectangle, so I'm going lengthwise here, and I need to be able to put it all the way around my body like this and have some space. This also is like down to my ankles, and you know, I'm wearing super baggy clothes and I can fit it very comfortably around my body. If you don't want to make a dress, and you want to make a top, and your blanket or tablecloth is shaped similarly to mine, as in a rectangle, you can fold it in half the other way and make a T-top. And I shall link the tutorial down below for you.
All right, so for my first step, I have my blanket folded in half lengthwise with the right sides facing, and then I'm simply going to stitch the longest open side together to create a very big blanket tube.
Okay, so once you have those open edges stitched together, you'll have something that looks like this. And you absolutely want to try it on and make sure you can easily slip it on and off over your head, which clearly I can. And you see there is that seam now, which is going to be the back seam. And those are simply those two open edges that I stitched together. Now let's go figure out how we're going to turn this tube into a dress. I feel like a wiggly worm.
Okay, so I've now decided which end of the tube that I want to be the top part of my dress, and I have it laid on a flat surface with that center seam going evenly down the back. So all I did to do that was just fold it in half and then make sure the center seam was in the middle and then laid it down. Very, very easy. So I'm simply going to center that on top of my blanket tube. And again, I'm just eyeballing things here. You can measure if you want to. I might measure when I'm done doing this part, but I'm not sure. I usually just eyeball everything, right? I do that so much. I made a line of products in my YouTube shop that just say, just eyeball it with my little eyeball icons. Go check those out. So here are the edges of the sides of my template top, and I'm just going to mark that area plus about 1 centimeter, I guess, onto my blanket tube at the top edge here. And now maybe, I don't know, that looks about even to me. So I'm just gonna fold it over. Yeah, that's totally even. Okay, so you know what? Just for fun, let's measure this and see how accurate I am. All right, so going from one edge to my pin here, ooh, it's about 18 centimeters, pretty good. And let's go from the other one, and again, 18-ish centimeters. So that's close enough for me, I think. Eyeballing definitely works if you have a good eye. So now all I'm going to do is stitch from my pin down to the edge here to close up this section and this section, and then that will leave me with an opening for my head hole, and then we're going to move on to the next step.
This is getting funnier and funnier with every step that we're doing. So you can see I have once again tried it on, and it's perfect. The neck is absolutely perfect, and it's exactly how I wanted it to be. And I did round off these corners just a touch, and I'm pretty sure I have to do a little bit more so they're not going to be weird and uncomfortable. It's very hard to talk with your hands when you're trapped in a fabric tube. Anyway, I'm going to go finish off these edges so they sit nicer on my shoulders, and then we're going to move on to the next step.
Okay, so I have my template shirt once again laying on top of my fabric tube, but this time I have the collar seams lined up, and I'm going to use the shoulder seam as my guide to create some proper shoulder seams instead of just guessing and sewing. I'm actually going to do it properly. Okay, so just popping a pin here right at the edge. So now I know I can just stitch from my collar seam down to my pin, and I'm going to create my lovely shoulder seam. Okay, you can see here I have both of my new shoulder area seams done, and that looks much better. But you might be thinking, it's still squared edges, and what the heck, this doesn't look like a dress. It's going to. I promise, I think. Anyway, I think this is going to work. In my brain, it's already worked, so let's hope. It's Refashionista Sheri brain on fire today. Let's hope. Okay, so now this actually makes it even easier because I can just line up those seams instead of really trying to eyeball everything. And now I'm going to go and chop out these sleeve holes right here. And then I'm going to create some sleeves to go in the holes. But as I'm chopping these out, I'm also going to get rid of this bulkiness up here because I have my seam there now. So if I cut that off, all will be well. So that's what I'm going to do. Look, that's looking more and more like a dress bodice, isn't it? Yay! Okay, so to make my life even easier now, I'm simply going to fold this side over to this side and use the cut side as the template to chop out the other side. And then we're going to create our sleeves. It's looking more and more like a dress, and I'm no longer trapped in a tube, but of course we have to create our sleeves. And to do that, all I'm going to do is shorten this to my desired length and then use the chopped bottom to create my awesome sleeves. So let's go do it. Okay, I am in absolute shock, as always, at how totally amazing this is turning out. So stick around, we're almost done, and then we're going to do the big reveal. But I chopped the bottom, and then, because the bottom was, of course, super fraying, because, I mean, this is crazy fraying fabric, right? I then bound the bottom first with some vintage lace, but then I was thinking, I don't like that too much. So then I went and I added more vintage lace. But as I was stitching, even though I had measured, I was running out of lace. Of course I was, because this is incredibly stretchy. So I was unintentionally stretching as I was stitching. But that's okay, because I found this lace in my stash, which I think is close enough, like the bottom edge here, it's close enough, right? And it's a pretty similar color. So half of the hem of my dress has this lace, and then we come over here and the other half have blah, blah, the other half has this lace, which I think is fine, because what do I always say? Perfection is the enemy of good enough, right? And this actually looks absolutely phenomenal when it's on. So you know what? It's time to do the sleeves and finish it off. So here is the bottom piece that I chopped off, and it's going to become my sleeves in just a couple of minutes here. So the first thing I'm going to do is just chop it in half so I have two pieces. And of course, I'm going to get rid of this thick, bulky seam as well. So now I have two pretty equally sized pieces, and I'm just going to go stitch this raw edge together on both of them to create my two tubes that will then become my sleeves. So I now have my two lovely sleeve tubes completed, and I did go ahead and just kind of gently round off the top edge here because they were looking kind of manky, and I think it'll fit into the sleeve hole a lot better with a nice rounded edge. But that's all it is. It's just a tube of fabric. So now let's grab the dress and add the sleeves. Okay, so I now have my dress inside out, and I have my sleeve right side out. And why is that? Well, we know why that is by now, right? That is so when I put the sleeve into the dress, the right sides will be facing, and then everything will be as it should be. So you can see here, I'm putting that curved edge up at the shoulder area, and then the side that I curved it down to be a little bit less wide is going to match up up with the side seam, of which there isn't one, so that's great. Anyway, we're going to guesstimate where the side seam is on here, and then I'm just going to go stitch this together and repeat it on the other side. I know I say this all the time, and I know I shock myself all the time, but as you guys know, I didn't grow up sewing. I'm pretty new to this still, and every time I manage to figure out how to make something into something else, it shocks the crap out of me. But anyway, this is absolutely darlingly, wonderfully awesome, and it is so similar to a dress that I was actually coveting since the 90s when I saw it in one of my favorite Gen X movies. So let's go try this on, style it up, and yeah, do a little bit of a comparison. I think I just created the most Gen X dress to ever Gen X in the history of Gen X dresses, for real. And as I mentioned before, this dress is so close to a dress that I've been coveting since I saw it in a movie in the 90s. And of course, that movie was Reality Bites. Where my fellow Gen Xers at that absolutely loved that movie, but now watch it and kind of go, that's kind of problematic, like a lot of the things, but still, it's so super relatable. Anyway, I coveted the dress that Lainey was wearing that was so rudely called a doily dress. And you know what? This is very, very close to that dress, but I made it to my own taste and style, so it's even better because it's exactly like I want it to be. Fantastic! Look at these absolutely gorgeously patterned vintage pillowcases. I mean, come on, you do not get any cuter than perfect patchwork checks and of course the lovely rainbow stripes. And I already had these perfect pink polka dots in my stash, so I think today we're gonna see how we can combine these three awesome vintage pillowcases into one fantastic garment that will be perfect for fall, and perhaps it might even double as an adorable Halloween costume. So let's get making. For this hopefully quick and easy project, all you need are 3 pillowcases, or as many pillowcases as you think you'll need to wrap around your body, and they should coordinate well together. I realize this is an awful lot of pattern mixing going on here, but they all look so cool together, and all the pinks are very, very close. So I think it's going to be a success. And of course, you need your sewing gear. So you can see here, I have all of my pillowcases lined up together, and that is so I can hold them up to myself and see which one actually is the longest, because that's the one I'm going to use for the main body portion of my awesomely cutie patootie sweetie petite dress. So I've taken my main body pillowcase and flipped it inside out, and then I folded it in half pretty evenly. It doesn't have to be super perfect, but it's pretty even. And now I'm just going to take my scissors and chop out this folded corner here to create a head hole. Okay, so you can see I got my head through fine. The head hole is the perfect size, but this is most certainly not going to fit over my body whatsoever. So I have to go upsize this pillowcase with another pillowcase so I can slip it on over my body. Okay, so I have opened up both sides of my main body piece. My head hole is perfectly centered, so that is lovely. And now I'm just going to pop it on so I can figure out how big I need to make my side panels. So now that I have it on, it appears I have unintentionally created a very, very attractive apron or smock type of garment. But yeah, this definitely needs to have something on the side seams. And again, I'm wearing really, really baggy clothes right now, but I don't really think I'm gonna need too much for my side panel. So I've already decided I want to use this one for my side panels, And I think I can just fold it in half, and that's going to give me more than enough space so I can get this on and off over my head, plus, you know, make it fit me way nicer. So let's go make this into side panels. So to create my side panels, first I simply chopped my pillowcase into 2 pieces. And then I chopped one of those pieces into 2 more pieces. And I hemmed up the raw edge on one side. And luckily, this edge here was already hemmed up, because whenever I can use pre-finished sides and edges, I absolutely do that. So as you can see, I have my body piece laid flat with the right side facing up, and I have one of my side pieces laid on top of it with the right side facing down. So that way, when everything is flipped right side out, everything will be facing the right way. Also, I did leave space here so I can add my sleeves later. So this is like the shoulder seam of my soon-to-be dress, and I made sure to leave enough so I can insert my sleeves. And there I have the lovely finished edges together. Now I'm just gonna go stitch this here. So I just want to make sure that this is understandable for everyone. So now you can see I have one of my side panels stitched on, and then when I fold the other side of my dress over top of that existing side panel, it's going to look like this. And then all I have to do is stitch this edge to the open edge of the side panel, and one of my side panels will be done. And then I'm going to do the whole thing on the other side of the dress. La la! This is now way too big for me. So I'm going to go take the sides in just a little bit. I'm just going to do 2 really quick straight seams straight down the center of each of these side panels. So it's not quite so big on me, but you can definitely see how side panels can really easily upsize just about anything. So you can see here that I just did a really quick and easy straight stitch, then zigzagged over the top of that, and then I used my pinking shears to trim off the excess fabric to help prevent fraying. So now let's move on to creating the sleeves. So just like I did when I created my side panels, I grabbed my rainbow pillowcase and I chopped it into 2 pieces. And then I'm simply going to fold each piece lengthwise with the right sides facing, and then stitch those raw length edges together to create my 2 sleeve tubes. And I now have 2 lovely rainbow sleeve tubes, and I have them right side out, so now I can easily pop them into my inside out dress. And then, as always, the right sides will be facing, and I'm just going to line up this bottom seam here on the sleeve with my lovely little side seam that I created, and shake everything down. And look, that is a perfect match. I really love eyeballing it. And again, I love it so much that I designed a bunch of t-shirts and stuff. If you want to, yeah, get your own Just Eyeball It merch. Anyway, so now I'm just going to go stitch all of this together and repeat it on the other side. The sleeves are absolutely perfect, and I then went ahead and used some of the remaining scraps from each of the pillowcases, and I created some bias binding, and I bound up the sleeve cuffs and the neckline and even the bottom hem. So now we can finally go and try it on and style it up. I 100% believe this is what is commonly known as a dopamine dress, because I have so much happy energy right now just from wearing this, and I really hope anybody that sees it also gets a lovely hit of that positivity. And it is just so super fun, and it's also crazy comfortable. It's actually a little bit too comfortable, I think.
think I got to take it in a bit more, but not until after Halloween, because this is going to make an absolutely phenomenally adorable clowny Halloween costume, I think. Like, you see what I mean? This is absolute Halloween clowny ragdoll perfection. It is so great with my very easy DIY yarn wig, which I made years ago, and it's still going strong. I shall, of course, put the tutorial down below for you guys. I found these two absolutely fabulous patchwork pillow shams at the thrift store, and they were super duper cheap. So of course I had to get them, because as soon as I saw them, I thought, I betcha I could really easily stitch these together and make an absolutely super duper cool, super duper cool shirt. So you know what? That's what we're gonna do right now.
For this quick and easy project, all you need are your 2 pillowcases or 2 pieces of fabric that can comfortably wrap around your body and your sewing gear. So because these are decorative pillow shams, they have this in the back here where, you know, you would slip your pillow in, and I don't need this excess fabric. And I thought, hey, maybe should I leave it and then have kind of like a secret pocket inside the top? But then no, that would just be uncomfortable because it's quite bulky. So the first thing I'm going to do is just to carefully cut off this excess fabric as close to the seam here as possible. So I chopped off those interior pillow pockets from both of the pillow shams here. And look, now I have some lovely white fabric to go in my stash to be used for something else. But let's finally get making this awesome top. So I now have my pillow shams together with the right sides facing, and you can see I have this kind of, I guess, lengthwise across my body here, because I want it to be kind of like a looser fit. And if I did it this way, so the width going across my body, it would be a little bit too tight, I think, especially in my chesticle area here. And it's quite long, and I don't want it to be long, and I don't want to have to do a lot of hemming or anything. We just want this to be quick and easy, right? So right sides facing, lengthways across my body, and now laying it flat, and we're going to move on to the next step. So because I am pretty darn certain these were actually handmade, they are not 100% even or exactly the same size. So I have them as close as I can possibly get them, and that's fine. It's just, you know, like half a centimeter difference, not a problem. So now I'm going to grab this Barbie t-shirt that has been sitting in my stash for too long because it is boxy and too big for me, which is why it's going to get a refashion. So let me know what you think I should do with this t-shirt. But in the meantime, it's just getting used as the template to make this one. So I think actually that is pretty darn even there, how I have laid that out. Let's just grab the measure and check though. Okay, so let's go from about the collar there and 25. And if it's 25 on this side, that's going to be awesome. It is 24, which actually is okay because, as I said, these are not even. They're about half a centimeter different. So I'm just going to slide it over a little bit more. And then we should be pretty, yes, even, perfect. Before we continue, of course, I have to share my amazing Refashionista printed books once again because they are just so amazingly awesome, and they're available on every single Amazon worldwide that does print on demand. So go get them. And please do, if you get my wonderful books, absolutely leave a review and let everybody know why they need these books because they are absolutely awesome. Okay, so I'm going to show you exactly where I put my little pin marks so I know where to stitch. So up here, I did it right at kind of where the collar meets the shoulder, because I think I do need to have a bit of a wider neckline because this isn't super stretchy. Then I measured it, and on each side, it is actually 23 centimeters. Then I came down here and I used the sleeves as a template and marked there on the end of the sleeve, as well as at the underarm seam and at the bottom hem here, and did the exact same thing over here. So now I just have to go and stitch from each side where I marked the collar out, leaving, of course, a head hole. And then I'm going to stitch here, like kind of a upside down backwards L shape. And then I have to just chop it, and I think it's going to be done. How easy is this project?
So, look, as you can see, the sun is finally coming out, and there it is on my tummy. But this is what the shirt looks like when it is all stitched, but has yet to be trimmed here. So, yeah, I think I gotta trim it, but I just wanted to show you how I stitched this part here. I just came with a gentle curve right to the top there of the sleeve. Really, really simple, just because I don't want all this bulk there. If your fabric isn't as bulky as mine, you can actually leave this and just do straight, and then you'll have more of a, I don't know what to call that. Is that a drop shoulder? No, this is a drop shoulder. I don't know. It's very early in the morning. As you can see, I was working before the sun came out, but sun is out now, and I'm actually almost done this, so that is fantastic. Let's go trim off all this excess and see what it looks like.
So everything is stitched and trimmed and looking pretty awesome, I think. So let's flip it right side out. This looks too cutie patootie. I cannot wait to try this on. So let's go do that and style it up. Okay, so I took the scraps and I made these little kind of long bag things with, it's open at the top and closed up everywhere else. And if you've been with me for a while, you may have figured out what I just created, but if not, here, come on, I'll show you. So here is my lovely Barbie setup, which of course I have an entire playlist devoted to this, so I'll link it down below for you. But my lovely 1970s vintage restored Barbie country camper was missing the sleeping bag. So, ta-da! The lovely Barbies now have absolutely fabulously comfortable quilted sleeping bags. How perfect is that?
Another super duper simple refashion. Seriously, how easy was this to make? If I wasn't filming, it would literally take less than half an hour to create a fabulous new top for myself out of thrifted pillowcases, pillow shams, I don't know, whatever the heck you want to call these, but how adorable is it? It is too a cutie patootie.
For this quick and easy Refashionista project, all you need is a funky old vintage scarf that is large enough to wrap across your body, plus an old bed sheet or a piece of fabric that is about the same size as your vintage scarf. Because I'm using an old bed sheet, the first thing I have to do is chop off the elastic around the outside of the fabric. Depending on if your bed sheet is made along the grain of the fabric, you may be able to simply rip the elastic off of the edge. And if you can do that, it makes life a lot easier. Next, you want to lay your bed sheet or large piece of fabric on a flat surface, place the scarf on top, and then cut the bed sheet to the size of the scarf. Next, grab an oversized t-shirt and center it on top of the scarf and the piece of fabric. Next, you want to grab your pins and simply mark the sides of the neckline. Now, because the t-shirt is stretchy and this scarf is not so stretchy, I'm going to be a little bit more generous here with my neckline, and I'm going to mark it right at the edge of the t-shirt neckline here. Now we can move on and mark the underarm seam of the t-shirt onto the scarf and fabric as well. Now, I'm going to be quite generous here because I want my top to fit more like a tunic or a beach cover-up. If you'd like your top to be more fitted, simply mark closer to the edge of the t-shirt, and when you're stitching, then follow that line and you'll have a more fitted look. And then go repeat your same marks on the other side of your scarf and fabric. So first I'm going to stitch the top part, and I'm going to sew from one of my neckline pins to the edge and a little bit down to the side here to create the top of my top, and then I'm going to repeat that on the other side. Once I have the top seams done, then all I have to do is stitch down from my underarm seams on both sides, and my fab little tunic top will be complete. Once you have it all stitched together, trim off any excess fabric and then flip it right side out and enjoy your fancy new tunic top. Throw it over your swimsuit or knot the side and pop it on with some trousers.
So you know what? Let's just get started. Let's go add this to this jacket and make it funky.
So to kind of liven up the back of my jacket, I could just stitch this on, but that's not really me, is it? So instead, I think I'm going to see if I can create a pocket on the back, and I want to have a top flap to my pocket, so I've lined up the placemat here on the bottom with this little bit of decorative faux fur. And I think that's about the right size for a top pocket flap. So I'm going to now chop this to size. So this part is of course going to be the bottom part of my pocket, and the chopped bit, will be the top flap. But because this fabric is definitely going to fray, first I'm going to go sew up these chopped edges. Okay, that is all nice and stitched, and it's not going to fray at all. So now, because I want to kind of keep this faux fur detail on both sides visible, I think that would actually look pretty good, and then the pocket would puff out a bit, right? If I gather it up a little bit at the bottom here, and then, yeah, I'd have extra room in the pocket. So that's what I'm going to do. So I stitched on both of the sides, and I've gathered up the kind of center part of the pocket, really trying to, utilize the pattern again for my kind of, center middle marks here. And now I'm just going to go stitch the bottom on. Look, I got a pocket. I got a pocket on the back of my jacket. So now all I have to do is go and stitch the top flap on. And I think I'm going to have to gather the center bit on the flap as well, just so it matches up properly. And my top flap is done, and I actually didn't have to gather it at all because the top part of the jacket here was a little bit wider than the bottom part, so that worked out great. Now, I'm not sure, so maybe you guys can help me out. I don't know if I should put a snap here to kind of keep it closed, or maybe do a buttonhole and a button. I don't know. You let me know down below, and I'll finish it off at a later date once I get some advice from you guys. But for now, let's go try it on.
This is not easy. Okay. Okay. Hello. How fantastic. Again, I keep saying how fantastic. Sorry, it is very, very hot. This jacket is very hot. But seriously, that came out so cool, and the fact that it's, a pocket is so just awesome, just totally awesome.
For this quick and comfy project, you'll need your large piece of fabric or bed sheet, elastic for your waist, scissors, a loose-fitting pair of lounge pants to use as your template, and your sewing gear.
The first thing you want to do is, if there's a pattern
kind of decide which way you want your pattern to be. Now, because this is a square, I can kind of choose which way, and I want to have my stripes going vertically. And then I am simply going to fold this in half with the right sides facing, like so. And then I'm going to fold it in half again. La la. So now you have your long length of folded fabric laid on a nice flat surface, and you should have 1, 2, 3, 4 layers. And these 4 layers are going to make up the front and back of your lounge pants. Next, grab your lounge pants that you're going to be using as a template and fold them in half with the crotch or gusset area facing out, like so. Then place them on top of your folded fabric with the crotch front side area lined up with that folded edge. Now, your final positioning all depends on how high you want your actual waistband to be. Because my template lounge pants have an incredibly high waist already, I'm simply going to line them up pretty much evenly with my top raw edge here, and that way I know that I'm going to have more than a few centimeters left over for creating my elastic waistband casing. So now it is finally time to get cutting, and you are simply going to be using your lounge pants template as a guide to, chop out your fabric. And here's a major tip. Make sure to give yourself a lot of seam allowance, because it's always easier to make something smaller than it is to add fabric to make it bigger. Now, because my waistband here is shirred and it's all gathered up with the elastic, I'm actually not going to be cutting anything on this side until I'm absolutely sure that this is kind of the correct width I need for my waistband area. So you should now have 2 very similarly shaped sides for your trousers, the front and the back. Now, one of these is going to already have a nice folded edge here, so you don't have to worry about sewing that. The other one is going to be open pretty much everywhere and just be 2 pieces of fabric. So what you want to do first is go straight down from the crotch point. Do not sew anything above that crotch point. And then on the other pieces of fabric that are both totally open, do the same thing, stitch down from the crotch point, as well as stitching all the way down that open edge. So now you should have 2 tubes of fabric that each have a V kind of cut out on one side. So now you want to take one of your tubes and turn it right side out, as I have done with this one. Then you want to pop it inside the other tube of fabric. Now this one is still inside out, so you're going to have the right sides facing. Whew. And once you have one inside the other, you want to kind of shake it all together so those V's are lined up. And again, the fabric should be right sides facing together. The V area needs to be lined up, and then you just go ahead and stitch those V's together. So once you have the V's stitched together, you can pull one leg out of the other, and voila, you really now can see how these are turning into lounge pants. I am very happy that this is actually going to plan, because I mean, as much as I love jersey fabric because it doesn't fray, it's great for doing no-sew projects, It is a beast to to sew, especially because this particular jersey is so thick and it just keeps rolling up on itself. It is driving me crazy. But at the end, I'm going to have some pretty awesome lounge pants. So yeah, let's move on to the next step, which is the very, very simple elastic casing for your waistband. So yeah, you just want to fold it down. I mean, if you want, you can try them on at this point to fold this down exactly where you want it. And yeah, elastic waist casings are very, very simple, right? You fold it down, you stitch all the way around, making sure to leave an opening so you can insert your elastic. So I have my casing stitched here, and I have my elastic and my safety pin. So now it's just a matter of feeding this through, and yeah. Once you have your elastic fed all the way through your waistband casing, then it's time to stitch the ends together and tuck it inside that opening, close the opening, and pop your lounge pants on and get ready for relaxation. If you've been with me for a while, you'll know that I didn't used to have some cool stairs to walk up and down or yard space to show my outfits, so this was my solution, a little mini Sheri dancing in the corner.
I have had this lovely oversized pair of overalls for literally years, and I've never been able to find another pair of them. So I put on my Refashionista thinking cap, and I thought, you know what, I can just make a pair myself out of a bed sheet that I'm pretty sure I have sitting in my stash right now. So let's go grab it. Ow! Okay, I definitely think I have more than enough fabric here, so I'm just going to fold it in half. And again, this is like a single-sized bed sheet, top sheet, so definitely more than enough. Goes all the way up to my neck, all the way down, covering past my toes, and it's overalls, so I don't need sleeves. But if I wanted to make a jumpsuit out of it, I would have more than enough to create long sleeves. But you know what? Let's go make our overalls.
I'm not at all a fan of ironing, but I've definitely come to appreciate the fact that it makes a project smoother and easier. So I'm ironing the wrinkles out of this bed sheet. So I have folded the sheet in half with right sides facing. So you can see here, there's 2 layers. And now I have to fold it in half again. And it's now folded in half once again. So if we come up here, you can see I have 1, 2, 3, and 4 layers. So here's a couple of different ways to create your template for the shape of your overalls. The first is to simply grab a pair of loose-fitting lounge pants or sweatpants and a tank top and just arrange them together in a line with the straps of the tank top up at the top and, of course, the sweatpants or lounge pants right below it. Now, I want my overalls to be quite baggy, so that's why I have everything lined up quite far from that folded edge. If you want a tighter look, just push everything closer to the edge. And now I'm going to show you the way I'm going to make mine. So I love these baggy slouchy overalls that I've just had for years, and I wear them all the time in the summer because they're so comfortable, which is why I'm using them to create the template for making my bedsheet overalls here. And as you can see, I simply folded them in half, and I have, just like with the tank top, the straps up at the top and the folded edges kind of lined up. And then there at the bottom hem, I'm going to see if I can actually keep this finished edge of the bed sheet, and then I don't have to worry about hemming, which is always great, right? If I can cut out some steps, I'm always going to do that. So now I'm going to use this as the template to chop out the very basic shape of my overalls. And there is my lovely chopped out template. And as you can see, I gave myself a whole bunch of generous seam allowance there because it truly is easier to have to chop off a bit more than it is to have to try to put it back on if you cut too much. Okay, now we're going to open it up and see how it looks. And there are my front and back layers for my overalls, and how absolutely cutie patootie does that look. I think that is just going to just be fantastic when it's all done. So first thing I'm going to do is stitch up the legs, the sides, and of course the tops of the straps, and then we're going to try it on. These are incredibly comfortable, incredibly easy breezy, and of course they're not done yet, not even close, right? But just to have the top and the sides and the legs here stitched, you get a really good idea of how it's going to fit and all of that stuff. So for me, I'm actually making these to wear like as beach wear, you know, to throw on over my swimsuit when we go to the beach. So I want them to be very, very light, airy, and comfortable. You can make them however you want to make them, but this is exactly perfect for me. Although I do think I got to take this in a little bit more on the sides here. Just, I think that's looks a little bit nicer than this here. Right now they're kind of like clown pants. So I'm just going to do a really quick stitch here that kind of angles down like so, like it goes, you know, it starts big and then it gets smaller, if that makes sense, because the legs are perfect. It's just this little part here that needs to be taken in a little bit. So I'm going to go do that, and then it's time to finish off the edges, and then it's going to be done.
Breaking news! Refashionista Sheri empowers eco-friendly fashion with published books. Find out all of the information in the book release video linked below and get your copies on Amazon.
And I now have them right side out, and you can see it's definitely not as wide as it was anymore. It's still pretty wide though. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to take them in anymore. I don't think so, because like I said, these are just going to be throwing on, going to the beach, you know, and just lounging around in. They're not for anything else. I will say though, I wish I knew how to sew when I was pregnant, but I didn't learn until after I had my kiddo, and I had my kiddo when I was like 38. So yeah, it doesn't matter what age you start doing something, just do it, right? You're never too old. I am proof of that. I'm just gonna fold this down, give it a quick press, hem it, and then embellish it with this pretty lace. So now that I actually have it all lovely and hemmed and everything, I'm having second thoughts about if I should add this lace all the way around or not. I'm really not sure, so I'm going to do a poll and let you guys decide. Seriously, how adorable did this come out? Once again, a very, very, very quick and easy refashion that pretty much anybody can do, right? I mean, using what you already have as a template is one of the fastest and easiest ways to create the wardrobe of your own personal dreams, because you're using things that you know you already love to wear. That was once again a fun-filled ride through just a few of my favorite tutorials. I mean, I have been sharing tutorials since 2011, and sometimes I just share one a week, sometimes I share multiple. So I literally have going on 2,000 free tutorials available on my blog and channel. So if you appreciate that, please do go ahead and subscribe and like and share the Refashionista goodness with your online circle, so we can get everyone using what they have to make what they want. And again, that is going to be such a good catchphrase, I think. Anyway, if you want to do a deep dive with me personally into your wardrobe, did you know you can do that? We can do that. We can do that live, virtually, of course, so you can be anywhere in the world. And I will put the link down below to how to hook up with that. And yeah, you can do this in person, and I can literally help you.
upstyle, refashion, and even audit your closet so you can step out in sustainable style every single day that, of course, doesn't break the bank at all, because you are using what you have to make what you want. And if you want to do everything yourself, I highly recommend getting my rockin' Refashioning 101 ebook, because there's over 100 tutorials in there. There's even more tips and tricks, and it takes you from, you know, the closet audit all the way through to making your own clothes, how to sew. Everything is in there. Link will be down below. And that is one of the most budget-friendly things you can do for your closet, because all you're going to do is transform what you already have. So as I said, a link is down below for that. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, and I'll catch ya on the zigzag. Seriously, I want to, is this your favorite? Is this your favorite makeup today? What's your favorite? Let me know.
This is Confessions of a Refashionista.